Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, we are going to be discussing Tribrigade-Lyrilusc, the deck that I actually utilized to get to Diamond 1 most seasons, but more particularly in this most recent season. This was actually the build card for a card as what I played to get to Diamond 1. So, all in all, let's just hop into this and discuss the deck. Starting off, we have the Tri-Brigades. These are pretty standard, but we are running just one kit and one Karos. The reason for this is because, honestly, the Tri-Brigade stuff isn't as important as a lot of the Lyrilusc stuff. So we cut down on the names to utilize more of the Lyrilusc stuff. We have triple Nerval because it is a winged beast, level 1, which really synergizes well with the Lyrilusc stuff. So there's that. And then Fractal because it can dump a Lyrilusc such as Cobalt Sparrow. Obviously, we're maxing out on that guy, as well as double tanky to search out Fractal. Yeah, that's it for the Tri-Brigade stuff. All of them have the effect to go into this guy, which is kind of the heart and soul of the deck. It's currently banned in the TCG, rightfully so, as is Maxi, so, you know. But all in all, yeah, all of them can just banish 3 monsters to go into Shuraig, which oftentimes is enough. If you can go like Fractal, dump enough cards, and then just normal summon a Tri-Brigade, banish 3, and then your opponent activates Maxi, you just go Shuraig, and then you're just kind of done. You summon out Shuraig, you summon out your barrier statue, and you pass the turn. Sometimes that's enough to at least have you survive and like not die to Maxi. So there you go. Next up, we have the Lyrilusc cards. We have the triple bird call. This card is absolutely insane. You can either dump or add a Lyrilusc monster. So you either send it to the graveyard or add it. This does come up, both effects. And then also, you can special summon a Lyrilusc with a different name from your hand. So say you want to dump Cobalt Sparrow and then special Turquoise Warbler. This allows you to go and then special summon the Cobalt Sparrow from your grave. You could also just add it to your hand, and then that also does the same thing with Turquoise Warbler. But say you have a Barrel Canary and Bird Call in your hand. Well, we'll get into this. But yeah, you can dump the Cobalt Sparrow and then bring it back with Barrel Canary. Pretty nice. Next up, we have Celeste Wagtail. Next up, we have Cobalt Sparrow. This card is absolutely crazy. If it's special summons, you add a level 1 winged beast monster from your deck to your hand. Now, a lot of people are also playing Crow, DD Crow. This is a very good card, very good inclusion, because yes, it is a level 1 winged beast, meaning you can search it not only off of Cobalt Sparrow, but also off of Recital Starling. I oftentimes didn't play this card, mostly due to the fact that I didn't really find it as useful, but realistically, you could cut a Maxi or an Ash Blossom or something like that to throw this in. I'm just not a big fan of it. That's more of a personal preference, so I'm not going to showcase this. Yeah. So, do keep that in mind. You can, if you have enough gas, go for that instead. Also, this is a huge thing, but if a Wind Exe monster was summoned using this card on the field as material, it gains the effect that it cannot be targeted. This is wildly beneficial because there are a lot of times, especially in the lower ranks or in, just mostly in the lower ranks or like earlier season, where you are able to link off into your Cobalt Sparrow, or utilizing your Exe into something utilizing the Cobalt Sparrow, which then your opponent will activate something like an Imperm, realize they can't target the card that you are summoning, mostly the Recital Starling, and then just proceed to negate something that is absolutely useless, like a dead Karos on your field. It happens way too often. So yeah, absolutely invaluable effect overall. Definitely the best card, and there's a reason it's currently at 2. Next up, we have Celeste Wagtail. This card, on special summon, searches out your Bird Call. It could also search out any other Lyrilusc spell trap. Doesn't come up all that often that we play other spell traps. I've seen occasionally people will play like Celeste Wagtail, or not Celeste Wagtail, Assembled Nightingale, like OTKs, or like FTKs with the Ghost Trick, and like you put all of the materials from like a Lyrilusc monster underneath it, utilizing one of the other Lyrilusc spell traps. But honestly, those are kind of gimmicky. You're just adding the Bird Call most of the time, which is also why we play 2. Bird Call is very nice, but it's not as good, and this doesn't really have as valuable of an attachment effect, because if it's in the graveyard, you just attach it to a Lyrilusc Exe. It's not great, so all in all, this is probably the weakest of the birds. Next up, we have Barrel Canary. This card is absolutely crazy. If this card is in your hand, target a Lyrilusc monster in your graveyard, special summon both this card and that monster, and then for the rest of the turn, you are locked into Xyz. Also, it gains, the Wind Xyz monster gains 200 attack if it was summoned using Barrel Canary. Not the greatest. Oh, also, it cannot switch control, which has never come up for me. Not enough people play triple tack and steal cards for this to really come up. So, yeah. Oftentimes, you are also utilizing the Barrel Canary to go into your Utopic Draco Future as like the last play. So, there's that. Next up, we have Turquoise Warbler. If you have no cards, special summon this. Then special summon another Lyrilusc from your hand or graveyard. This card is the combo starter, and it is probably the best of the Lyrilusc cards. It's a free special summon while also allowing you to get into your Xyz. This card does so much for the deck. Not only does it special summon from hand, but it also special summons from grave, meaning that if your board ends up getting destroyed or dealt with and you draw into this card, it is basically a free one-card starter. Absolutely insane card. Next up, we have Sapphire Swallow. Sapphire Swallow can special summon a level 1 Winged Beast monster from your hand, which allows you to special summon Nerval. So you special summon this and Nerval, which is very nice. You only have to have a Winged Beast monster on your field. Any Winged Beast at all, boom, you get 2 free monsters. So obviously we are maxing out on this. I think earlier on, people were cutting down on this card. They were cutting down on this. They were cutting down on the Celeste and the Barrel Canary. And I think eventually people started to realize that maxing out on them is the best. And I agree. Also, if it is Xyz summoned, you can take a Lyrilusc monster in your graveyard and attach it to another one as material, or attach it to the Xyz as material. This is very good because it allows you to make a really large Ensemble Robin with multiple bounces, which means even if you have a barrier statue and they deal with it, you can still bounce cards and really deal with boards, making it very difficult to beat end boards. Next up, we have the 2 bricks of the deck, that being Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds and Apex Avian. Both can be summoned from the hand, and both do have merit in the hand, seeing as how they are winged beasts, so you can pitch them off of a Kairos, or, you know, just normal summon a Barrier Statue and pray. But, all in all, you're mostly going to be summoning them off of Simorgh. So, there's that. Next up, we have all of the tech cards that I have played. I like double Imperm, obviously the double Called By, and a double Droplet. The reason for these specific ratios with the double Droplet and double Imperm is because Droplet is useful in very specific situations. It doesn't slow down things like Flunder or what have you. It's really good for going first, though, so it is nice to have, and I've thought about bumping it up, but I was like, I'm already playing 42 cards. It's not really worth it, and I definitely need things like back row removal or what have you. So there's that. Next up, we have the triple Ash Blossom and triple Maxi, pretty standard. And then obviously 2 Nibiru. This card comes in way clutch. I genuinely would say you definitely need to be playing this card in the current metagame. So double Nibiru. I think 3 is too bricky, and I think 1 is just, I don't see it enough. So yeah, it does come up where it's just a dead card, but as is the case with a board wipe, even things like Forbidden Droplet and Harpy's Feather Duster come up and don't do anything. So there's that. And then, of course, the 1 Harpy's Feather Duster. As for the extra deck, we have the Heart and Soul Simorgh. This card is crazy. It just requires any 2 monsters, including a Winged Beast. Any Winged Beast. So, with half of your deck being Winged Beasts, you can oftentimes just link summon, hard link summon this. Normally what I will end up doing is I will special summon one of the Winged Beast off of a Ferrijit that I have summoned off of a Tri-Brigade activation, and then just link off those monsters in order to go into a Simorgh, which then gets me a cycle of a card. So then if I have a brick in my hand, I could potentially shuffle that back and get something more useful, like an Ash Blossom or a Nibiru. But the most important effect is the fact that your opponent cannot target this card or Winged Beast monsters this card points to with card effects. Yes, that is the most important effect. I know what you're saying. That's not the most important effect. Trust me, it is. It really is. The fact that you cannot target things like the Ensemble Robin, the Apex Avian, the Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds is absolutely invaluable. And the fact that this card alone also cannot be targeted is insane. It means that things like Imperm or Effect Veiler or what have you just aren't going to stop it. Now, the effect that really makes this broken is the fact that During the end phase, you can special summon a winged beast monster from your hand or deck with a level equal to or lower than the total number of unused spell trap zones on the field. So, going first, 100% of the time, even if you fill up every single one of your spell trap card or spell trap zones, you are going to be able to summon out a barrier statue of the Stormwinds. Reason being, your opponent will have 5 clear zones. So, this guy is level 4, you get to summon him. But, if you end up having most of your zones cleared, you can go into Apex Avian because it is a level 7, meaning you only need 7 of the 10 potential unused zones in order to summon this guy. There you go. That is what makes it so broken. All in all, absolutely insane card. Next up, we have Fractal. This card can special summon a level 4 or lower Beast Warrior or Winged Beast from your hand, and is easy to link summon, not only because of the materials that it utilizes, just 2 of any Beast Warrior or Winged Beast, but also because it is a Tri-Brigade, you can banish cards to special summon this. Also, you get to cycle a card. You draw a card and then place one on from your hand onto the bottom of the deck. So again, if you end up having one of these bricks in your hand or something that may not be useful, like a Nibiru, and you're going first, or a second Tenki, or what have you, you get to cycle a card. Very nice. This has saved me a countless amount of times. The amount of times where I've like linked off into something and then been able to continue playing because I ended up like drawing into a Barrel Canary or drawing into a Karos or something along those lines is insane. Next up, we have Double Shuraig. I think we all know what this card does. It banishes, but did you know that it also searches? I have used this countless times in order to banish 4 cards, summon out this guy, link off this card as well as a Fractal or something else because it is a winged beast for some reason, in order to go into Smorg, and then utilizing this effect in order to search out a follow-up such as a Barrel Canary or a Fractal or what have you. Absolutely crazy. Next up, we have Recital Starling. We're playing 2 of this card because, 1, it can boost the attack of a face-up monster on the field, which can help boost the Smorg, but more importantly, it searches a card, and it's not a once per turn. So you can make 2 of this card, and you're able to search out 2 different cards. Also, if you use it, or if you summon it after summoning a Cobalt Sparrow, that is 2 summons. You summon the Cobalt Sparrow, you get a search. You summon out this guy, you get a search. Both same restrictions, a level 1 winged beast, so you can search out the Nerval with both of them. Also, you can utilize the Nerval effect by detaching the Nerval, utilizing this card, in order to get a 3rd search. So if you go Cobalt Sparrow, utilizing the Nerval as well, into this guy, you detach the Nerval, and now you get the search off of the Nerval, as well as the search of the Recital Starling. So that's 30 potential searches off of a singular card. Pretty nice. Next up, also, both of these can then go into a Utopic Future, into a Utopic Draco Future. Awesome. Ensemble Blue Robin. Again, any 2 level 1 monsters, same with this one as well as the Assembled. All of them have the same restriction. However, you can make it with more than just 2 as well, but, where is it? If your opponent special summons a monster, you can detach a material from this card, then target one of those special summoned monsters, return it to the hand. This means out comes their big ol' fusiony boy. Goodbye. Out comes their big link monster. Goodbye. Out comes their follow-up for what have you. Goodbye. Just bounce. Not once per turn. Just bounce. Just bounce. Just get it out of there. Just bounce it. This card is absolutely crazy, and in tandem with Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds, it literally shuts down entire opponent's decks. Yeah. Also, its follow-up. If this card in your possession is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card, add a Lyrilusc monster from your graveyard to your hand. You add Barrel Canary, you add the Turquoise Warbler, you add some sort of follow-up. Insane. Then we have Assembled Nightingale. This card allows itself to attack directly while adding protection to itself, as well as any other Lyrilusc monsters, and it basically just makes free Zeus. It's just Zeus. Next up, we have targets for, well, the only target for Tri-Brigades, other than, obviously, the Tri-Brigade monsters, that being Ancient Warrior's Oath. This card is very good because it sends monsters to the graveyard, so it can proc things like Nerval, as well as you could send a spent Tenki, or you could send something from the hand if you need to, in order to bounce cards. That's basically it. It's just another target that you can go into. And it being wind means that you can even go into your own, into this guy off of a barrier statue on your side of the field, and then you can send away the barrier statue in order to bounce a card. Next up, we have Almirage, normal summon Nerval, send it to the graveyard, or kit, send it to the graveyard in order to go for the Almirage, which then allows you to get a search. Pretty nice. I've also done it where you could normal summon something like a Cobalt Sparrow or a Celeste Wagtail, and then go into the Almirage and then Barrel Canary it back, which is also very nice. Next up, we have Apollousa. This is just a very good card. It also is a wind, which is very useful if you are under your own barrier statue. Link it away, go into the Apollousa, boom, you're free to play. Then we have the Utopic Future, as well as the Utopic Draco Future, and Downerd and Zeus. So let's hop into the analysis, or the combos, and show you how this deck performs. Alright, so we're going to start off with the possibly the best combo that we can. Turquoise Warbler, Cobalt Sparrow. These two cards get you full combo. So we are going to start off with the special summon of the Turquoise Warbler. Turquoise Warbler will then special summon out the Cobalt Sparrow. Cobalt Sparrow will then search out either a Nerval or a Sapphire. Either one works either way. So we're going to add the Sapphire Swallow here. We're then going to exile both of these guys in order to go and make this one. And then in order to play around specifically in order to play around Ghost Turtle, we're not going to activate the effect of the Recital Starling. We're then going to activate the effect in order to detach specifically Turquoise Warbler. Okay, I detached the Turquoise Warbler here because if I had a way to get another monster into my graveyard, like for example, if I had Turquoise Warbler and Fractal instead, I would have dumped the Cobalt Sparrow and brought it back from the grave instead of from the hand. And then Fractal being in the grave allows us to special summon with Nerval. So I'll show you that here. So we're going to search out the Nerval here. Now with Sapphire Swallow and Nerval, we're going to special summon utilizing the Sapphire Swallow effect, both of these. Then again, if we had Fractal in grave, utilizing the Turquoise Warbler, we would be able to banish the Turquoise Warbler and the Fractal in order to go into Ferrigit. Now we don't have that, so I'm not going to showcase that. So we are just going to instead go for the overlay of these two in order to go into the second Recital Starling. We're then going to activate the effect of the Recital Starling by detaching the Nerval. We detach the Nerval here because it will allow us to get a search as well. So we are going to then search out the Barrel Canary. And we are going to activate the Nerval effect in order to add the Fractal to our hand. Okay, then we are going to overlay both of these cards. Up. No, that's fine. Yeah, and then go into the Utopic Draco, or the Utopic Future, and then the Utopic Draco Future. This will also detach specific materials, so we're going to detach these two. And yeah, there we go. Now we have the Utopic Draco Future. I always put it in the far right zone. The reason for this is because every other zone can be interacted with things like Anima, Generator Transverser, and other such cards. So if you put it in the far right zone, it can't be interacted with. That's just a little tip. But yeah, there you go. Link zones, woo. But now we have the Fractal and the Barrel Canary in our hand, and we're going to activate we're actually going to normal summon the Fractal at this point. We're going to go for the Fractal effect, and we are going to banish 1, 2, and 3. Prioritize banishing Tri-Brigades because they are not as useful in this build, so keeping them in the grave is not as valuable. So banish the Tri-Brigades first. We are then going to go into Shuraig. Shuraig will then, it'll just sit there for a while. We're going to then activate the Fractal effect, and we will send from the from the field to the grave the Celeste Wagtail. We are then going to special summon out our Barrel Canary by specialing out the Celeste Wagtail. Make sure that it is pointing to one of these 3 zones in case they have something like a Imperm. I don't know why they would have saved it to this point, but just in case. Anyway, now we get to go and add, off of the Celeste Wagtail, a Bird Call. Okay, and then we get to go and overlay both of these in order to go for an Ensemble Robin. So we're going to move this guy over here. Now this guy is currently 1,200 attack, but I always put it in defense position because that way, if they have something like Lightning Storm, they're not going to deal with most of our board. In fact, they'd probably only be able to deal with the Shuraig. So at this point, we can just go to the end phase, keep the Bird Call in our hand as additional follow-up, and then we can go and special summon out the barrier statue. Now we could also special summon out the Apex Avian, since of course all of these zones are free. So this was off of those 2 cards, but that is a best case scenario. What happens if it's not best case scenario? Well, let's find out. Let's say your hand looks quite a bit different. Let's say we have something like this, Nerval and 2 Barrel Canaries. This is not ideal, but how can we navigate something like this? Well, obviously we're going to start off with the normal summon of the Nerval, and we're going to send it to the graveyard for the Almirage, which I, for some reason, can't... There we go. Almirage. Yay! We're going to activate the effect of our Nerval here, and we are going to search out... We could either search out Fractal at this point, or we could search out the Kairos. I'm going to show you the Kairos first, so we're going to add to our hand Kairos. Now, this is why things become a little bit different, and yeah, I'll just show you in a second. So either you can go for the Link summoning mechanic, or you can go for the Xyz summoning mechanic, depending on what you want to end on. So we're going to go for the Link summoning first, and we are going to special summon out the Kairos by sending this card to the grave. We're then going to activate the Almirage to clear our zone. It doesn't really matter when we activate this, but as long as we activate it prior to the... prior to... Well, I'll just show you. So we're going to then banish the Barrel Canary here, as well as the Nerval, in order to special summon this Barrel Canary from hand. Sorry, not that. Nope. Fetishi, which will then special summon the Barrel Canary, and then we can send both of these cards to the graveyard in order to go for the Simorgh. Okay? So, there we go. As long as we activate the Almirage prior to linking away into the Simorgh, we can still make our barrier statue untargetable, which also means that oftentimes it takes a while for our opponent to deal with something like this, which means we can potentially end on a Kairos still sticking on our field. They normally tend to deal with the Simorgh as well as the barrier statue, which can allow us to, you know, do a little bit more with the Kairos. Now, if we wanted to go for the Xyz play, we're going to take a step back. So we're going to go and put this to the top of the deck and this to the extra deck, and then we are going to go and put this away as well. We're going to bring this guy back. Nope. Oh, gosh dang it. So we're going to special summon this guy. We're going to move him here. And then both of these will go back to the hand. Back to the hand. And we're going to add the Fractal to our hand here. So we're going to activate the effect of our Fractal in order to dump to the graveyard a Cobalt Sparrow. So we're going to dump the Cobalt Sparrow, and then we're going to go for the Barrel Canary effect here. We're going to special summon out our Cobalt Sparrow. Cobalt Sparrow effect will activate, and we will add to our hand the Sapphire Swallow. This will allow us to then special summon out our Barrel Canary and Sapphire Swallow, but first we are going to go for the Recital Starling. That's fine. We're going to activate the Recital Starling here, and we can actually activate the Recital Starling to give it the Almirage more attack, because it will be sticking around. So if you want to give it more attack so that it can't just immediately be walked over, you could do that as well. However, most of the time you just want to get rid of it anyway. It's up to you. If you want to play around Ghost Ogre, don't activate this effect. But you do lose to Ghost Ogre anyway, so just activate the effect. It doesn't matter. Anyway, we're going to then search out a... it doesn't really matter what we search out here. I guess Celeste Wagtail is the best option. So we're going to go for that. But again, it doesn't really matter all that much. Since we've already utilized Barrel Canary, it's not really going to do a whole lot for us. Yeah. And then we are going to go and special summon out the Sapphire Swallow as well as the... Celeste Wagtail, which will then allow us to overlay both of these guys onto each other to go for another Recital Starling. We're going to then activate the effect of the Recital Starling, sending to the graveyard the Sapphire Swallow in order to search out... oh, sorry, I didn't search out the Bird Call off of the Celeste Wagtail. So when it's special summon, search out the Bird Call, and then we can search out our Turquoise Warbler. Yeah, so we'll search out the... No. Yes. So search out the Turquoise. Well, okay. Here is where another split decision can happen. You can either go for the Nerval here to add, again, follow-up, or we can go for a Turquoise Warbler to add a potentially slightly better field, it depends on what else is in your hand. If you think that you need additional disruptions, like you don't have many hand traps or what have you, potentially go for this. The Turquoise Warbler. But if you do have additional disruptions, add the Nerval. It's a normal summon that basically gets your entire play started. So go for that instead if you can. We're going to go for the Turquoise Warbler because it continues the combo. So we're going to go for this one here. And then we are going to go and overlay both of these. And make sure we send detach. And we go for Utopic Future, and then the Utopic Draco Future. Now, normally I will put this guy in defense position in this instance, just because, what is it? Numeron, or any other such OTK-style strategy, does have a hard time outing this card, because it's indestructible and is a negate, so there you go. But at this point, we can go and activate the Bird Call here and search out. It doesn't really matter what we search out since we have utilized everything. At this point, let's just search out a... we'll search out Sapphire Swallow. Okay. Then we are going to special summon out the Turquoise Warbler. Turquoise Warbler is the only card that we have not activated at this point. So what we could do is we can actually just special summon from the graveyard our Cobalt Sparrow. Actually, I'm going to summon out the Sapphire Swallow here because it will give us additional materials. So at this point, we can then overlay both of these guys over each other, and we can go for the Ensemble Blue. And then the Sapphire Swallow's effect will activate, which will allow us to attach the Cobalt Sparrow. And then we also get to activate the effect of the Celeste Wagtail. And boom. Now we have a format Ensemble Blue as well. So you could either go for the Samorg and lock your opponent out with the Barrier Statue, or you can go for this and instead go for an Ensemble Blue, which bounces 4 times. It's a little bit different, but both of them kind of end on some follow-up. But yeah, again, kind of depends on what you want to go for here. You could also go for the Nerval here and just hope that the Utopic Draco Future is enough to carry you through the turn, or whatever other disruptions that you have. But that is a pretty bad hand to begin with. So all in all, being able to end on something like this is still pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to show you the versatility that is Bird Call. So let's say we have a Barrel Canary, Sapphire Swallow, and Bird Call. We don't really have a great way of getting, like, Cobalt Sparrow. We don't really have the greatest of special summons. So what all can we do? Well, Bird Call comes in handy right here, because we're going to activate the Bird Call, and then we are going to search out a Cobalt Sparrow. So we'll add this guy to our hand, which will then, the following effect, the Then You Can effect, will allow us to special summon out the Barrel Canary. Okay, then we are going to, since we have a Winged Beast on our side of the field, we can go for the Sapphire Swallow here in order to special summon out our Cobalt Sparrow as well as the Sapphire Swallow. Cobalt Sparrow will then activate, which will allow us to grab up our Nerval, but we could also add a additional Barrel Canary. We could add Celeste Wagtail. There are a myriad of different things. I'm going to go for the Nerval here. It's just the best one 9 times out of 10. We're then going to overlay both of these cards in order to go for, of course, that's right, the Ensemble Blue. Recital, sorry. We're then going to detach the Barrel Canary in order to add to our hand. There are a few cards that we could go for. We could go for the Celeste Wagtail here. We could go for the Turquoise Warbler, or we could even go for a... Well, no, we could go for either of those, right? We could also go for DD Crow if we wanted to. Again, not playing that, but you can. I think we're going to go for the Turquoise Warbler here. At this point, we are going to then have to... Well, hold on. We haven't normaled. Sorry. So at this point, we could either normal summon the Nerval, or we could actually just link off both of these. So I'm going to show you the normal summon of Nerval, and we are going to go and activate the... or sorry, not activate. We're going to overlay both of these in order to go into the second recital. And then again, do the same thing. We're going to detach the Nerval, and we are going to then, at that point, basically have the same combo that we had previously with the, more or less full combo. But this time, we are going to go and utilize the the Nerval here. So we're going to pick up, doesn't really matter because we're going to pick up the Kairos and then a card to discard. So again, doesn't really matter at this point. I guess we could add the second turquoise just to show you, like, hey, we're just going to discard this. But we're going to special summon out this guy. We're going to pitch this card to the graveyard, and then we will activate the effect of our Kairos. And we could go for 3 here, or we could go for 2. So we're actually going to go for the 2 here. So we're going to banish and banish. Actually, now that I'm thinking about this, it does matter what we pick up here. Or it can matter what we pick up here. Because we could either pick up the... we could pick up the Celeste Wagtail instead. Sorry. Okay. So we're going to pick up the Celeste Wagtail. It does matter what we pick up. And then we can go and banish and go into... Gosh dang it, not what I wanted. I meant to special summon this. And then we can go and special summon out the fetish sheet. Also, obviously, prior to doing this, please overlay these in order to go into the Utopic Draco future. I'm stupid. Didn't do that. Definitely should. Let's go with this guy. And then this guy. So that you're protected from Nibiru. So prior to even summoning the Kairos, just quickly, like, summon this guy. Oh my gosh. Detach. Detach. Okay. There we go. So now you can negate a Nibiru if you need to. Anyway, the reason that the Turquoise Warbler isn't as good, sure, we haven't activated the effect of the Turquoise Warbler, but the most that we could have done there is like special summon out another Turquoise Warbler from Grave, which could then potentially link into something, which isn't as valuable as, or exi into something, which isn't as valuable as going Celeste Wagtail here to special summon it off of the Fetishite, which will then allow us to search out the Bird Call to add that additional follow-up. And now we can send all of these cards to the graveyard in order to go for the Samorg, which will then also proc the Fetishite, and we could, we could draw a card here. Barrier Statue, great. We're going to put that right back onto the bottom of the deck. And then we can special summon out with the Samorg. So there you go. We're still able to end on a pretty decent board because Bird Call. All right, so let's say that you are kind of stuck. Right now, you have Samorg on your side of the field, as well as Kairos and a Barrier Statue. This is honestly something that comes up quite often, so do keep this in mind. Now, Samorg can't be used as link material, but you don't have access to the 8,000 damage that you need to OTK your opponent. So how in the world are you going to do this? Well, this is why we play cards like this guy right here. Double Dragon Lords. So first and foremost, any Tri-Brigade will work here, as well as you could even utilize your Lyrilusc cards. So if you end up having Lyrilusc cards, you could potentially go for an Assembled Nightingale and go from there. I'll show you that in a second. But we're going to say we have the Tri-Brigade cards here. So we're going to just banish 2 of our monsters. So banish, banish. And now we can go for our Double Dragon Lords. So we can special summon this guy. Now, there are 2 things that we can do. If our opponent has something that we can bounce, we could even send the Barrier Statue to the graveyard and then bounce one of our opponent's cards. Or we could just link all of these off in order to go for an Apollosa, right? And then if we have any other sort of follow-up, now we have a 3-mat Apollosa on our side of the field, and we can push for lethal. This does require, again, more cards as follow-up, which oftentimes you will have anyway, because normally throughout the end of your combo, or if something like ends up floating or what have you, you're able to go and do a little bit more. Obviously, if you don't have a way to push for lethal, there isn't really a good idea, or there isn't really a reason to get rid of your Barrier Statue. Just kind of keep it around if you can. You can even just special summon out the Double Dragon Lords and just kind of wait off of that. So yeah, there's that. However, let's say that we have, instead of a Kairos, say this is actually in the grave, we still have the Barrier Statue, but we have the Barrel Canary that we ended up searching off of our, what have you, the Ensemble, right? So we will say, that's not what I wanted. We'll say that the Ensemble also went to grave, but now we added back the Barrel Canary. So now we have Barrel Canary instead of the instead of the Keros. So what we can do here is we can actually just special summon this guy, and it really does depend on what else is in your hand. Here, going for something like a Cobalt Sparrow is pretty nice, but obviously the best option would be a Sapphire Swallow, which I don't happen to have in this instance. The reason for a Sapphire Swallow is because it gets you the most materials, and if we want to try and go for an OTK, the best way to do that is through an assembled Nightingale. So I'm going to just simulate the fact that we have a Sapphire Swallow. We're going to special summon out the Sapphire Swallow here. We're then going to overlay all of these. Where's the overlay button? Oh my gosh, I'm blind. So we're going to overlay these in order to go into our... Oh, my bad. Clicked the wrong button first. In order to go into assembled Nightingale. We're then going to special summon out, or attach to it as material, both the Celeste Wagtail as well as the Cobalt Sparrow. The Cobalt Sparrow does not protect it. Do keep that in mind. It is just an additional material at this point. And I do like having it as material a little bit more, just due to the fact that, like, that way you can't actually interact with it. But now we have a 4 attack, 1,000 attack point monster. So we're basically dealing 4,000 damage off of this card alone. Also, because it can protect itself, we can just sit under the barrier statue potentially another turn and hope that our opponent doesn't have anything. And even if they do, we're going to be able to be indestructible and not take any damage from this guy. And we can always just detach the... where is it? This guy, Celeste Wagtail, in order to continuously put this card back. So we can OTK them in 2 turns off of just this card alone, as long as they aren't able to banish it or something like that. So yeah, there you go. You could just go for the assembled Nightingale there. Alright, so here we have the Fractal and the Nerval this time. Again, this could be Fractal or Tenki, just any way to Fractal. And we are going to activate the Fractal effect, and we are going to then send the kit. Send this card to grave. Now, even if we had drawn the kit, this still works as long as Nerval is in your hand. So even if we don't end up sending the kit here, or we can't send the kit here, this still works. So I'm going to act as if kit is in our hand. So you know what, we'll even add this to hand. And we are going to send it to grave the Nerval. Now, the kit actually being in hand, we're just going to act as if that's not the case, even though it is technically in hand. We're just going to act as if it's a dead card. So we're going to add the Keros here, and we're going to normal summon the Keros. And then we are going to activate the effect of the Keros in order to banish, that's right, 1 and 2. And then we can go for, of course, the Fetagite. So Fetagite comes down, and then we can special summon out the Nerval here, and then we get to link all of these off, send them to the grave, in order to go for a Simorgh. So then at this point, we can go and cycle a card with the Fetagite. So we'll draw one, and then we will, you know, cycle back whatever it is that we choose not to have. So if, for example, we had the kit here, we could shuffle that back. Although, obviously, normal summoning the kit is pretty good because, again, it can dump more names into the graveyard, which could then be used as additional fuel. But we'll just say that we didn't have the kit or something along those lines, right? But yeah, ending on the Simorgh here is pretty nice. So we can always do that. So yeah, just having that winged beast is very useful. Even if this was just like Fractal and any other winged beast, you literally end on the same thing. So while this is specifically with Nerval, this could be a Sapphire Swallow, this could be a what have you. It's just the fact of the matter that a singular Fractal will allow you to basically get to this as long as you have the kit to send to the graveyard. So yeah, there's that. Alright, let's say your hand is full of Lyriluscs, but no real way to get them out of the hand, because you didn't end up drawing into a Tri-Brigade name, nor did you draw into a turquoise. That's the one, yes. A turquoise warbler. So, as long as you have Sapphire Swallow, you're able to do this. Just normal summon any of your other Lyrilusc cards, and then you are able to utilize your Sapphire Swallow. Now, let's say we don't have the Sapphire Swallow, and we don't get to use this card to special summon. Well, we can do something very similar. So instead, if we have a Barrel Canary instead of a Sapphire Swallow, I'm going to add this card back to our hand. What we can do is we can normal summon something like the Celeste Wagtail. We could even normal summon something like the Sapphire if we only had these two. And then we can send it to the graveyard for the Almirage in order to go for our Barrel Canary here. We'll go Barrel Canary to bring back this guy. This Celeste Wagtail would obviously activate its effect. If we had something like Sapphire Swallow, that's not really going to happen. However, at this point, we can go into a few things. Obviously, if it's Celeste Wagtail, we do get to add that bird call, which makes things significantly better, because what we can do is we can overlay these two. Oh, sorry. First things first, we got to get that search. I always forget this because Master Duel, it just prompts you. I'm terrible at these at dueling book. Anyway, so we're going to special summon out our Recital Starling here, and since we have the bird call here, we can actually just detach one of these cards as material in order to search out our Cobalt Sparrow. Oh, sorry, I'm going to put this back as if we didn't have it. So we're going to put this back, just basically saying, hey, we don't have this card. And then we can go and activate our bird call in order to search out whatever it may be, right? We could search out the Turquoise Warbler here. We've already utilized the Barrel Canary, so it's not really a good idea to go for that. We could go for the the Sapphire Swallow, since we haven't utilized that one as well. So either of those are good options. We could even search out the Barrel Canary if we had access to some of our other, like if we had access to like a Karos, or if we had access to another one of the names. Like for example, we already had the Sapphire Swallow, so that we could have something as additional follow-up there. But we're just going to add it to our hand the Sapphire Swallow, which I know I literally just put back, but roll with me here. And then this will prompt us to, we could either special summon out the Cobalt Sparrow off of this, or we could special summon out the Cobalt Sparrow off of the Sapphire Swallow. I'm going to special summon it here off of the Bird Call, because this will allow us to search out another card, which we can then add this card, the Turquoise Warbler, to our hand, allowing us to then special summon out the Sapphire Swallow as well as the Turquoise Warbler. And then the Turquoise Warbler, since it was special summoned from hand, will then proc to also special summon out the Barrel Canary, which was now in grave. This allows us to go for the Exile line, which we've already seen. We can end on the Ensemble as well as the Utopic Draco Future, while also having access to the Almirage. And of course, we can also utilize the Recital Starling to boost up the Almirage by with the on summon effect of the Recital Starling. So that's always something that you can end on as well. So let's say you have a Winged Beast, Sapphire Swallow, and Nerval. Doesn't matter what the other Winged Beast is, as long as it is a Winged Beast, you are able to do a similar play. Now, granted, if it is something like a Cobalt Sparrow or a Celeste Wagtail, you may want to consider instead keeping that card in hand instead of normal summoning the other, instead of normal summoning it to special summon out the Nerval. But basically, all you have to do is just normal summon one of the Winged Beast. It could even be the Nerval itself, and then you get to special summon it utilizing the Sapphire Swallow as well as the Nerval. This can then obviously be utilized in order to go into the Recital Starling, and then we can activate this effect. Stop. There we go. We can utilize this in order to go and search out our... we'll search out the Cobalt Sparrow here. We'll add this guy to hand. Now, here is where things get a little bit interesting, right? Because our hand is kind of... I mean, our field isn't the greatest, right? We don't really have enough material to go for another Exi of the Recital Starling. We've already utilized the Sapphire Swallow, so even if we did have another Winged Beast that we could special summon, it's not really the greatest because obviously we have that. We don't really want to lock ourselves, so even if we had something like Barrel Canary that we could search out, it's not really going to be worth it to go and immediately lock ourselves. And we don't really have access to the Nerval effect to special summon anything. So what we're end up going to have to do, or what we will end up having to do, is just link off our two materials to go into Fetagite. Now this will proc the Nerval effect, which will allow us to add a card. And you can add one of two things here. You can add the Karos, or you can add the Fetagite. Fractal. You can add the Fractal here in order to dump a card. Like, for example, you could dump the Celeste Wagtail, which you could potentially see off of, like, a Barrel Canary, which could get you Bird Call into rotation. You could dump something like a... I mean, if you didn't search out the Cobalt Sparrow, you could go for the Cobalt Sparrow. You could dump the the Turquoise Warbler if you needed to. Or what have you, right? Whatever it may be that you wanted to dump there. You could even dump the kit if you had access to another Tri-Brigade name, and you could do the Tri-Brigade stuff. by special summoning out one of those. So there's that. Or we can add the Kairos if we have another winged beast in our hand. So we could special summon the Kairos and do the link plays from that. I'm going to add the Kairos here because I think it's a little bit stronger with its plays that it facilitates. So then we're going to activate the effect in order to special summon out our Cobalt Sparrow. Cobalt Sparrow will then search a card. This card doesn't matter too much if you go for Kairos, because basically you are just going to end up sending it to the graveyard for the Kairos. But normally you'll want to search out the Barrel Canary here so that you can add the additional follow-up. So yeah, we're just going to search out the Barrel Canary. We are then going to send all of these to the graveyard in order to go for the Simorgh here. And this is where things get rather interesting, because if your hand is a little bit bricky or you need to find something in particular, you get to cycle a card. So we're going to draw a card and we're just going to act as if we didn't really draw anything too great. So we're just going to put this back into, I guess this would be on the bottom of the deck, but still. Then we are going to go and special summon out the Barrel, or summon out the Kairos over here by pitching the Barrel Canary, and then we can go and activate the Kairos to banish the Tri-Brigades first. 1, 2, 3. Well, okay, hold on. So we could go for something like Shuraig here. It doesn't really do a whole lot for us. So we're actually just going to go for the 2 here. Sorry, put this back to grave. Sorry, I was just like just kind of on autopilot, like, oh yeah, banish 3 for the Simorgh. We already have the Simorgh. Sorry. Yeah, we're just gonna go for the 2 here in order to spawn out the double oaths. And again, this doesn't look great until the end phase, where we are able to search out and special summon, or not search out, but special summon out the barrier statue, and then you have barrier statue with the oath that's protected from targeting, which normally is enough to like let you survive. So while we didn't have the greatest of hands, we're still able to do stuff. And obviously if you have like 2 cards in your hand that aren't doing anything for the combo, either your opponent has hand trapped you, or more likely they're just hand traps themselves, or just like interactions like a Forbidden Droplets or an Imperm or something like that you can utilize to slow down your opponent. So honestly, this board doesn't look great, but it does end up doing the job, and you get the additional bonus of having Simorgh on your field, which can continuously generate additional advantage. So yeah, there's that. Alright, so I'm going to show you what you can do with specifically summoning out Shuraig in order to really utilize the effect of specifically the search that you get from Shuraig here. So I'm going to just quickly show you why I personally play multiple Shuraig, and why I think it's so very important. I've seen a lot of builds that don't specifically play multiple copies of Shuraig, and I do think that that is a mistake because of this combo in particular. So we are going to go for the Recital Starling. Now you basically need to do this without utilizing your normal summon, or with having access to another special summon. So if you have something like a Sapphire Swallow, through a normal summon, so like you have another winged beast in your hand and you can special summon it utilizing the Sapphire Swallow, you could do that as well. But yeah, we're just gonna go with this combo here. And we're going to search out the Nerval here, and since of course we haven't actually normal summoned, we are going to just normal summon it out at the Nerval, and since we don't have enough targets to link summon or to special summon a link monster, we're just going to send these cards to the graveyard in order to go for the Fetishite. This will proc the Nerval effect, which will allow us to search out a Fractal, so we're going to add the Fractal to hand, and then we're going to special summon out the Fractal. Oh, I clicked more. Anyway, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 winged beast monsters. They all happen to be winged beast in the graveyard, which allows us to banish all 4 of them. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4 in order to go for Shuraig. Now I know what you're saying. Why are we going Shuraig? It just banishes, yada yada. Yes, I know. But we're not going to activate the first effect to banish a card, because obviously that would be just detrimental to us. So what we are going to do instead is we're going to send all of these cards to the graveyard in order to go for, that's right, Simorgh. So now we are still able to end on Simorgh. However, things get even more interesting, because not only do we get to cycle a card with the Fetishite, which honestly won't matter given our current hand, but more importantly, the Shuraig is going to allow us to search a monster, a beast warrior, winged beast monster that is level 4 or lower. So this means that we are able to search out something pretty good, like for example a Barrel Canary. So we're going to add this card into our hand. Now the reason that we search out the Fractal here is because now we can activate the effect of the Fractal in order to send itself to the graveyard to send a Cobalt Sparrow. Oh, I added it to the hand. We're going to send the Cobalt Sparrow to the graveyard as well. This then allows us to, again, do the whole Barrel Canary shenanigans with Cobalt Sparrow. So out comes the Cobalt Sparrow, and now we are locked into Xyz, but that doesn't really matter. So we're going to search out with the Cobalt Sparrow, and we're going to search out our Celeste Wagtail. Now, if we happened to already utilize our Sapphire Swallow here, and we've already utilized that effect, then doing this next part doesn't really matter as much, since you will probably already have another level 1 on your side of the field. You just basically need access to another one on your side of the field. But what we can do is we can go for our second Recital Starling. I always forget the names of these ones. We're going to go for the second Recital Starling, and we are going to detach this one in order to then search out the Sapphire Swallow. So we'll add this guy to hand, and then we get to go and special summon out both the Sapphire Swallow as well as the Celeste Wagtail. The Celeste Wagtail will activate, allowing us to add to our hand the Bird Call. So we're going to add the Bird Call to our hand, and then we get to overlay... actually, we're not... Yeah. We're going to overlay these two. Oh, also, this card would activate to allow us to boost up the Simorgh, so we can do that as well. But we are going to overlay both of these in order to go and special summon out the Ensemble Blue. Now, granted, at this point, we could either go for the Ensemble Blue here and protect, and just like keep the Recital Starling on our field to get another potential search, or we could go and utilize the Assembled Nightingale or the Ensemble Blue to go into a Utopic Draco Fuchsia. It's up to you. You could either keep the Assembled Nightingale in order to go into Zeus more easily, or you could keep the Ensemble Blue to potentially have that as additional follow-up as well, if you want to go for the Utopic Draco Fuchsia. I personally prefer just ending on the Ensemble Blue. I think it's a little bit more valuable because bouncing cards is just so incredibly nice. Granted, if you're expecting something like a Nibiru, or more specifically like a Numeron player or something along those lines, definitely go for the Utopic Draco. Anyway, so yeah, this will then proc our Sapphire Swallow, which is currently attached, which will allow us to summon out the Cobalt Sparrow, and we're going to overlay over here. We're going to special summon this over in one of these zones. Whoops, not what I wanted. I wanted to click this. There we go. So now we have the 3-mat Ensemble Blue, and we have the Recital Starling, which isn't really doing anything, but most importantly, we have a 3,000 attack point Simorgh currently on our side of the field that will then also proc in order to special summon out a Barrier Statue or an Apex Avian, whichever one, while also having follow-up in the form of Bird Call. Now, we could actually also activate the Bird Call right now in order to grab up the Barrel Canary, but we don't really need to do that because if the Ensemble Blue does get dealt with by the opponent's card, we are able to add back the... the Barrel Canary is currently attached, so that's not the greatest, but we can add back one of these cards that is currently attached to the Ensemble Blue. So potentially hold the Bird Call for a follow-up. But yeah, honestly, not that bad, given the starting hand being pretty lackluster. Alright, so I've found myself in this scenario multiple times. My Fractal gets Ash Blossomed, and my Turquoise Warbler gets Impermed, or Effect Veilered, whatever it is. And I don't have a Called By, or what have you. So, what I end up normally having is at least one other form of interaction, whether that is just a normal summon of something like a Kit or a Nerval, or just another level 1 Lyrilusc that we can go for. So obviously at this point we will have to commit our normal summon, but we have eaten 2 of our opponent's hand traps, so we should be free to play from this point. If they have the third, they have the third, and they're just the better player. But at this point we can just overlay these 2, and again go for a pretty standard Recital Starling. The Recital Starling will then just get us a yeah, we're going to detach this, and this one will allow it. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Make sure that you know what you're detaching. So this is one where it does matter where what cards you do happen to detach here. So because we have the Celeste Wagtail here, we do want to detach that one in particular. However, if we didn't have the Celeste Wagtail, we had like a Sapphire Swallow or a Barrel Canary here or something along those lines, then it doesn't really matter. But if it's Celeste Wagtail or Cobalt Sparrow, obviously detach those ones, since we have not utilized that effect. And we're obviously going to search out the Barrel Canary. We're then going to utilize the Barrel Canary here and hope that they don't have the DD Crow as well. And we're going to special summon out the Celeste Wagtail. Celeste Wagtail effect will activate and it will search out the Bird Call. Now, we are locked into Xyz with this, so we can't just, link all of these off into a Samorg. But we are going to then utilize this in order to overlay. We'll go for this guy once again. And now we get to get another search. So we are going to search out another card, and we are going to search out the Cobalt Sparrow. The reason for this is because we already have the Bird Call. Now, granted, obviously, if we didn't have the Bird Call, we don't do this play. But we're going to just continue from here. So we're going to go for the Bird Call here, and we're going to search out our Sapphire Swallow. So we'll add this card to hand, and then we get to go for the Cobalt Sparrow here. I'm going to special summon out this guy. Realistically, sorry, hold on, take a step back. Sorry, hold on. First and foremost, before even activating the Bird Call, I keep forgetting to do this. We make ourselves the Utopic. Okay, now we have a negate, so if they happen to Nibiru us, we can at least negate it. They normally would Nibiru upon seeing the Utopic future, so your field would already be cleared. But now we can go for the Bird Call here. Special summon out the Cobalt Sparrow. Cobalt Sparrow will then also allow us to search a card, which we will search out, of course, the Nerval. Then we are going to go and special summon out both the Sapphire Swallow as well as the Nerval. And again, we are locked into Xyz, so we do have to keep that in mind. However, what we can do is we can overlay this one and this one and go for a Ensemble. And then this will also trigger the Sapphire Swallow, and we can attach to it both of these cards. So we're going to attach from the Sapphire Swallow effect either Turquoise Warbler or the Barrel Canary. Either of those works. And then just attach the Celeste Wagtail after the fact. So, yeah, there's that. Also, our guy is now untargetable, which is very, very nice. So now we have a 5 mat. Nope, not at all. Not at all what I wanted. Anyway, we have a 5 mat. Let me just... There we go. These are the materials that we have. We have the 5 mat untargetable Ensemble Robin, as well as the Utopic Draco Future. So it's not, again, the best of boards, but given the fact that we were able to end on this, it still seems pretty good. And you might be wondering, why are we putting Ensemble consistently in defense position? Well, yes, while this card with 5 materials does specifically have 2500 attack, the problem is that if you get rid of a material in order to bounce something to the hand, all of a sudden that attack decreases. And most importantly, if it's in attack position, it's not really very useful because it's just going to be lightning stormed or something like that, right? So just putting it in defense position makes the most sense. Sure, it's not going to have any defense at all, period, ever, unless it gets like a random boost from like a Recital Starling, which rarely happens, if ever. I've never seen that happen. But yeah, there you go. If you do happen to get it defense, it doesn't really matter because it just doesn't come up. If this card goes to the graveyard, it also allows you to search or add back a card. So having it die isn't the worst. And also, no one ever plays around the fact that this card bounces cards because reasons. So yeah. Alright, let's say that you were uninterrupted and you are able to end on a board that looks similar to this. You have a 4 or 5 material ensemble Robin, you have your Samorg Bird of Sovereignty, and of course your Utopic Draco Future, and potentially another hand trap or other form of interaction. Now, at this point, is it worth it to go for the Barrier Statue, or should you go for the Apex Avian? This is honestly up to you, but I would say that given the fact that you have the Ensemble with multiple counters, and the Utopic Draco Future, and another form of interaction, yes, it's probably worth it to go for the Apex Avian to protect yourself from potential board wipes or problematic cards, such as something like a Lightning Storm. Well, that's not all that bad, but more specifically things like Raigeki, things like a poorly utilized Droplet, things like Imperm, potentially, whatever it may be. Just to have that extra negate can be incredibly useful. And since, again, you have the Ensemble that can bounce cards to the hand, it shouldn't be that big of a deal to just continually deal with whatever your opponent ends up making. They go for a fusion, cool, tuck it away, goodbye. They go for a link summon, doesn't matter, goodbye. Doesn't really matter, you can just kind of tuck it away. Oftentimes, if they are able to somehow keep special summoning after 4 cards have been shuffled or returned to the hand, yeah, that's very, very rare, especially against 2 other negates, that being the Utopic Draco and the Mist Valley Apex Avian. However, the Mist Valley Apex Avian here is mostly to insulate you against big board breakers, like a Pankratops or a myriad of other... Well, Pankratops wouldn't actually have been all that useful against a Barrier Statue. But it's more so against, like, Flunder. This is really good. So if you're expecting to play against, like, Flunder... granted, if you play against Flunder, a single Utopic Draco Future just ends their entire game because you get to steal the monster. Did you know that this card steals? Yeah, this card doesn't negate and destroy. It negates and steals. So that's pretty good. So yeah, all things considered, this is mostly one of those things where it's like, well, my board is already incredible, so we're going to go for this. Otherwise, 9 times out of 10, just go for the Barrier Statue. And the reason for this is, well, yes, it does lose to something like Flunder. Oops, not what I wanted. I literally clicked this. Well, yes, this does lose to Flunder because, of course, they can just play around the Barrier Statue. The thing is, again, if you already have the Utopic Draco, you're fine. So insulating yourself against other plays in particular, most notably literally every other deck, even Tri-Brigade itself, even Tri-Lyrilusc itself, has a hard time playing through this because you can't go into the Tri-Brigade stuff, and you can't go into Zeus to, like, wipe their board. Yeah, the single Utopic Draco should oftentimes be enough against Flunder. Barring, like, they drew Imperm as well to deal with the Utopic Draco, but that's very rare. And then even then, it's like, okay, you just sit on, again, you just sit on the Utopic Draco, and you're fine. It's not going to do anything. They can't out it. This guy is just incredibly strong. So there you go. Unless they, like, kaiju it or tribute it away or something like that, right? So yeah, all in all, most of the time you're going to go for this. However, on following consecutive turns, you will be continuously summoning the Mist Valley Apex Avian. As long as you still have the Samorg out, you are going to try and continually summon out the Apex Avian. It's a negate every turn, which honestly, in a simplified game state, if you are able to continually sit a 2700 body onto your side of the field, that also is a negate, you're probably doing pretty well. So, yeah. Alright, so at the end of these long combo videos, I always like to do some test hands just to give you an idea of how the deck plays and what the hands look like. So here we are starting off with this one, which is a very strong opening. The worst thing that we have here is the Barrier Statue in our hand. However, it's a lot of gas without much insulation. So we don't have things like Called By or Ash Blossom to protect us from something like a Max C. So we just kind of have to hope that our opponent doesn't have it. If they do, oof. Anyway, we're going to add to our hand the Fractal. Fractal will then be utilized, and we're going to send this card to the graveyard. Since we already have a Bird Call, I'm actually going to go and send the Kit to the graveyard here. Yeah, we'll send Kit to the grave. Kit will then send the Nerval. And Nerval will search out, we could either search out the second Fractal or the Karos here. It doesn't really matter which one. I'm going to go for the Karos, and we're going to add this guy to hand. Now we are going to activate our Bird Call. So we're going to activate the Bird Call, and we are going to search out the Cobalt Sparrow to our hand and special summon out the Celeste Wagtail. Special summon this. This will go to the grave, and then we will also just search out another copy of our Bird Call to hand. We're then going to special summon utilizing the Sapphire Swallow in order to special summon out the Sapphire Swallow as well as the Cobalt Sparrow, and then we can utilize the Cobalt Sparrow's effect in order to search out another card. Here we're going to search out the Nerval, so we'll add this guy to hand. And then we are going to summon, utilizing, it doesn't really, utilizing at least the Cobalt Sparrow, the other one doesn't really matter. Make sure it's in defense. And then, why did that get banished? What are you doing? Go back to the extra deck. Anyway, we're going to detach material, and we are going to search out the... let's search out the Barrel Canary. So we'll add the Barrel Canary to hand. And then we are going to go and special summon out our Karos by pitching the Barrel Canary. So we'll send this card to grave. I know what you're saying. Why search out the Barrel Canary? It doesn't really matter what I searched there. I could have gone for anything at that instance, or any search target, because it was just going to be utilized as a Karos discard. Because we do want to banish 2 here for our Fetijit. So we're going to go 1-2 here, and then we are going to summon out our Fetijit. Oh my gosh. Okay, thank you. We're then going to special summon out the Nerval off of the Fetijit, and we are going to go and count 3. Okay. Okay, yeah. We are going to go and banish 1 and 2. We're going to banish this one. Banish. And banish. And now we can go for our Double Oaths. Now we can overlay these 2 in order to go for the second copy of our Recital Starling. And then we can utilize the Recital Starling to give this guy a boost of 600, as well as detaching the... we're actually going to detach the Celeste Wagtail. It doesn't really matter what I detach there, but we've already utilized the Nerval, so get the Celeste Wagtail in there a little bit sooner. We're going to then search out the Barrel Canary, since we haven't utilized that guy's effect this turn. And then, of course, we are going to overlay both of these cards into a Utopic Future. Also, hold on. Detach. There we go. And then we get to go for the Utopic Draco Future as well. At this point... Oh, I forgot that we still have this guy on our side of the field. And we don't really have a way to get this guy off of the field. Okay, I have lied to you. Don't do this. Instead, turn this to the extra deck. Sorry. Instead, utilize one of these in order to go into Samorg. Do this instead. Don't do what I just did. Do this one instead. Go for this Samorg. This will also allow us to cycle a card, so we're going to draw a card, and perfect, an Ash Blossom, which also allows us to put the Barrier Statue onto the bottom of the deck, which we could utilize later. Now we can go for the Barrel Canary here, and we're going to special summon out. It doesn't really matter. Actually, it does. It does matter a little. We're going to special summon out the Sapphire Swallow. We're then going to overlay both of these in order to go for our... I'm going to go for the Assembled Nightingale here. I don't think that having access to Zeus in this instance will be as useful as having access to Ensemble. So, yeah, there's that. This will then allow us to overlay... Here, we'll detach. We will overlay. And now we can go for the Utopic Draco. It does require you to utilize one of your other Xyz, which is a problem. But overall, we're still ending on Bird Call in hand. We have the Double Dragon Lords, which is also boosted. We also have the Samorg here. and the Utopic Draco, and then of course at the end phase we are going to special summon to the field the Barrier Statue. So now we have all of this, which is pretty decent, and of course the follow-up with Ash Blossom also in hand. So we have Kairos as follow-up, we have the Bird Call as follow-up, and we can get rid of our own Barrier Statue if need be with the Double Dragon Lords. So all in all, pretty good. Alright, so this hand is much better. We drew Called By as well as Forbidden Droplets, so we can deal with that pesky bug. So we're going to, again, start off with the Tanky. However, things are a little bit different. We do have the Barrel Canary, but we also have the Nerval. So things kind of change. So we're going to add, of course, the Fractal, since it is our only search target, off of that. We're going to then send the Fractal to the graveyard. And I am going to send to the graveyard something that I can just banish. This is where things get weird. I'm gonna send the Kit to the graveyard, because we are just gonna banish it. So we're gonna send the Kit to the graveyard. Kit will then send the Nerval to the grave as well. Nerval effect will activate since we haven't already used that effect, and we will search out the Kairos. Add the Kairos to hand. Now, granted, if we needed to, we could have gone and sent like Cobalt Sparrow to go into the Barrel Canary stuff, but all in all, I don't think that's necessary. At this point, we are going to, normal summon out our Nerval, and we are going to activate the effect of the Nerval in order to banish 1, 2, 1, 2, and bring out Ferrigide. Ferrigide effect will activate, and then we will special summon out the Kairos here, and then we're going to send both of these cards to the graveyard in order to go for, that's right, the big boy himself, Simorph. We're going to then trigger the Ferrigide in order to draw a card and cycle a card. Maxi is pretty nice, but I do value the droplet a little bit more. So we're going to put this back into the bottom of the deck, and we are going to go for the Kairos here. So we're going to banish 1, 2. I guess I could have shuffled back the Barrel Canary if I didn't expect us to be utilizing that, but again, I do really value having additional follow-up, even in the form of something like a Barrel Canary, because we can just get something off of a Simorgh if we need to. So while Maxi might have been a little bit more useful there, we're going to keep the Barrel Canary. So we're going to go for the Double Dragon Lords, and we are going to then just pass the turn here, and we're going to set 1 and 2, which I can find the set cards. Now, granted, we probably would have had to utilize the Called by the Grave there to hit an Ash Blossom or a Maxi or something along those lines, so we probably wouldn't have had this set, but that doesn't really matter all that much. And then, of course, during the end phase, we're going to grab our Barrier Statue. Now, we still could actually grab up our Apex Avian if we needed to as well, but all in all, seems pretty good. And Barrel Canary technically isn't follow-up at this point, but it's still a decent card to have, because again, if the Simorgh sticks around, we can actually special summon out another one of our monsters, utilizing the Simorgh. So we could summon out the Apex Avian if we needed to, or we could even summon out the Cobalt Sparrow, which would then trigger it, or the Versatile Starling, or what have you. So this Barrier Statue is glued to my hand. Anyway, this hand is rather interesting. So we're going to start off with the Nerval here, and we have utilized the normal summon, which is a little bit sad, but we do get to go for the Sapphire Swallow into the Cobalt Sparrow. So we're going to go for the Cobalt Sparrow here in order to search out a... So we can either search out the Celeste Wagtail or the Turquoise Warbler at this instance. So we're going to go for the Celeste Wagtail here, and I will show you why in a second. We're then going to utilize both of the Cobalt Sparrow and the Sapphire Swallow in order to go into our first Recital Starling. We're going to go for the Recital Starling and send the Sapphire Swallow to the grave. Actually, it doesn't really matter in this instance, but it's fine. This will then allow us to search out the Turquoise Warbler here, and then we will link off of both of these two in order to go into, of course, the Ferrigide. This will proc the Nerval, allowing us to search out our Kairos. The reason we're going Kairos here and not something like the Fractal is because Kairos can special summon itself by utilizing a Winged Beast. So we could utilize the Barrier Statue, but we could also shuffle that back with the Ferrigide. So there's that. But more importantly, the Kairos is additional follow-up, whereas something like the Fractal just kind of isn't. we would have had to gone for like a Barrel Canary there and then dumped the Celeste Wagtail, which just isn't as valuable. So yeah, we're going to go for the Turquoise Warbler here. Off of the Feta sheet, Turquoise Warbler will then, of course, special summon out the Celeste Wagtail. Celeste Wagtail effect will activate, and it will allow us to search out the Bird Call. So we're going to add the Bird Call to hand, and then we are going to go and overlay both of these in order to go into our second Recital Starling. We're going to activate the effect of our Recital Starling, pitching a Turquoise Warbler and searching anything that isn't specifically Barrel Canary. It doesn't really matter which one, just as long as it's one that isn't Barrel Canary. We're then going to activate our effect of the Bird Call in order to search out that Barrel Canary. And the reason for this is because if we add the Barrel Canary to our hand off of a Recital Starling, we aren't able to special summon another Barrel Canary from our hand. We specifically have to be able to special summon out a Lyrilusc monster of a different name. So yeah, just any of the other ones and you're good. So we're going to special summon out our bird here, and then we get to go and send all of these cards to the graveyard in order to go for a Smorg. Sorry, this goes to grave. We are then going to cycle a card, and it's an Ash Blossom. That's not the greatest, but at the very least, we do get to put this card into the bottom of the deck. This does turn off our Kairos, but I think that is a price that is worth paying, given the hand that we had. We could have like cycled back the Ash Blossom or something like that, but in all honesty, it's not really worth it. Now, we do have two decisions that we could actually go for here. We could go for the Kairos here in order to go for the Double Dragon Lords, and potentially, you know, end on something like that. We could even go Double Dragon Lords and then end on an Apollosa as well if we wanted to, by summoning out the Double Dragon Lords with Kairos, the Double Dragon Lords, and the Recital Starling. We could actually link all of those off into a 3-mat Apollosa, which is not bad, but again, it's not really great as well. Or we could go for the Barrel Canary here and go for Utopic Draco as well. This does require either the Assembled Nightingale or the Ensemble. So that is a branching path that you could go for. I'm obviously going to go for the Barrel Canary play. We're going to special summon out the Sapphire Swallow, which will allow us to then go for the Assembled Nightingale. Then we're going to send, I mean, it doesn't really matter, so we're just going to detach all of these. And overlay this. And we will go for this guy into this guy, which will then move over here. And then we get to set this here and special summon out the, in end phase, special summon out the barrier statue. So there you go. Boom. And then we have Kairos as well as follow-up if we need to. All in all, again, a pretty decent board. All right, and that's the deck. Hopefully this was enlightening, and it showed the wide variety of cards and the plays and different combos that you can go for in this deck. Now, I didn't showcase every specific card that you could play. For example, at one point, I was actually playing more Tri-Brigade stuff. I was even playing a Bearbrum and the... no, I think I was only still playing the 2 Shuraig. But I was playing a Bearbrum as well as a Revolt, as well as having an additional kit and I think another Kairos. No, I was only playing the 2 kit. So I just added in another kit because... at that point, the Tri-Brigade stuff was performing exceptionally, and just like overall was kind of overperforming. I don't remember what meta exactly it was, but yeah, I just know that the Tri-Brigade stuff was very powerful in that instance. But yeah, right now the Lyrilusc stuff happens to be very good because of like the commonality of Flunder and how prominent the Flunder stuff is, and the Lyrilusc stuff happens to do really well against specifically Flunder. A single Utopic Draco, as I mentioned, basically is an FTK against that deck. There is like very few ways besides the continuous spell that's normally a 1-of in order for them to actually like do anything against that. So yeah, all in all, this deck is super fun. There is so many different intricacies that you can just learn throughout. Hopefully I was able to explain some of them, or at least a large portion of them. I don't think I explained everything, but this should get you started and show you more of the intricacies as to what you can and can't do, and more specifically, what you should be going for in Master Duel. This has gotten me, again, to Diamond 1, like, most seasons, like, legitimately. Diamond/Plat 1. So, yeah, there you go. Hopefully you guys did indeed enjoy. If you did, a like is very much appreciated. And if you want to check out more content like this, as well as more Yu-Gi-Oh!, then just be sure to subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. And remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.